So let's move on to how to actually create the cue sheets or turn-by-turn route directions. It's slightly different the way you create them for walking or for cycling, mainly because of the terrain. When you are cycling, generally you'll be on roads, and the roads often have road signs, which allows for much easier identification of the place of where you are, and with larger or more visible, more obvious landmarks that you can use to signal where you have to turn. When you're walking and you're in an area either where there is no kind of landmark or forest, where there's lots of trees and there's nothing particularly different about where you are, it becomes a little bit more complicated to explain how to, where you have to turn. Starting off with cycling, when you're identifying a cycling trip, but also on a walking trip, you start off by looking at a map, using all the digital forms of maps that are available online, be it Google Earth or Ride with GPS or Bike Map or other platforms where you can find itineraries that have already been identified by others. Also, Openstreetmap is a good source because it often has tracks or trails marked on them that tell you that those are routes that can be done. Now, you can't take those routes for granted because they may have changed or they may not be as you want to create them. But it gives you a good indication of what is doable, what is possible to do in the area where you want to design that route. So once you've analyzed the map and identified the kind of route that you think you want to do and the direction in which you want to go, the landmarks you want to pass by, you create a GPS track using Google Earth or Ride with GPS or other forms of mapping tools, and you put this on a GPS. Then you go out and actually do the route yourself. This is necessary because you are guaranteeing for the client the route that that they will be doing. This is the product that you are selling. So it's very important that you actually check it yourself. So once you're out on the field, if you are cycling the route, then look out for changes on the road. Have there been new roundabouts put in place? Are there deviations? Are the road signs available that you can use as landmarks? If you're walking, look out for overgrown paths. Is this path still doable, passable? If you're going in winter and there are no leaves, how do you expect that trail to be after a heavy rainy season where the vegetation has grown? Are you walking close to a stream? Will the streams overflow? And how much will those streams overflow? Because if you think it's a river or a stream that can grow more than 15, 20 centimeters after heavy rain, then you may need to consider using another trail, because it can become risky for a client to cross a stream if it's wider, like a wide stream, and the water becomes too deep, because it could become 30, 40, or 50 centimeters deep, and then it's dangerous. So when you are walking or cycling the trail, pay good attention to how the landscape is, not only for what you see now, but for what you can understand can be other weather conditions during the year when the clients will be traveling. With regards to how you actually write the turn-by-turn notes, then use a language that is quite imperative, that cannot be an indication of or sort of a generalization. The client needs to be reassured that that is exactly what you need to do. You have to go right or left, keep straight, and use imperative language so that there is no interpretation to be made by the client. Use landmarks that are not changeable in time, which means In a village, it can be the school, the post office, the police station. If there is a village bar, there's one bar, it's a small village, that bar will probably remain there forever. But the name of the bar may change, like the name of a petrol station. Petrol stations tend to stay there forever, but the type of petrol may change. So use the indication, the general indication of that landmark. It could be a statue, it could be also a very large tree. But don't give maybe the name of the tree. Maybe it's a birch or an oak, but people may not know that that is a birch or an oak. So just say a very, very large tree standing alone in the middle of the field. Things like that, so that it is clear for everybody to understand, even if you don't know the type of tree it may be. Also, the colors of houses or doors may change. So if it's a street name, there's a street and there is a street name on it, so use the name and use the house number rather than saying the pink house on the corner, because that pink house may become red in the future. So you're ready to start tracking. Now, you have to put yourself in the client's shoes and think of yourself as somebody completely inexperienced who's going to be doing that route. You probably already have a lot of experience, so you can't base the information on what you need. You have to really think outside of your shoes and think as somebody who has never been there before, doesn't speak the language, doesn't know the area at all. So start with your back to wherever you're starting from. If you are starting from in front of a church, or if you're coming out of the hotel, with your back to the hotel, your back to the church, you tell them exactly what they have to do. You go straight, right, left. You give an indication of a road name or a direction if there is a sign. And you tell them for how long they will need to go until the next point where they need to turn. Some people like to use cardinal points, north, south, east, west. North Americans are very good at identifying these. Europeans generally don't have a clue about cardinal points and where they are located. Most people, or many people, don't know how to read a map. So cardinal points are a good indicator, but not the only one that you can use. Other things that you can use is the surface of the road or the trail that you are on, and be consistent in the way you describe that, whatever is underfoot. So always try to use the same kind of wording for a single track, a cart track, a gravel road, a 2-lane road, a highway, like underpass, and consider that if you're writing in English, there may be different ways of describing these things in English, because Americans and the British will use slightly different language, but be consistent in the language that you use.